The NBA playoffs are upon us, which means it's time to check out the key players' recent card prices and to try to speculate on who might go up or down the most in the next 45 days. Winners rise, losers fall. I've got you covered. Let's data dive. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Data Dive powered by Market Movers. My name is Tyler Nethercott, better known as Teapot, and it's hard to believe, but the NBA playoffs are already here. It seems like just a couple of months ago that I was making my prediction videos about the season. And once the season wraps up and the awards are announced, I'll probably go back and revisit those projections one more time to see how I did. But for now, it's all about the playoffs. And as you know, playoffs means predictions, it means speculations, it means projections, all of which are ultimately up to you to decide. Now I'm going to show you a wide array of players' card prices, where they've been recently, and I'll discuss my thoughts about each matchup and who might be poised to make a deep playoff run. And for those of you on a budget or looking for value, stick around until the end. I'll give you my 6 players who could present a high floor with a decent ceiling. And as always, this video is brought to you by Market Movers. Visit marketmoversapp.com and use promo code DIVE when you check out. You'll get 14 days completely free to try out Market Movers and 20% off for life as long as you're subscribed. Now let's get into the data. So as always, I like to start with Vegas odds because the odds makers and the bettors tend to be much smarter than me. So let's take a look at that. Here are the odds to win, to be the NBA champion, and they've got the Celtics in first place. The Celtics had the best record in the NBA to finish the regular season. They've got a lot of depth. They've got players who have been deep into the playoffs. Overall, the Celtics definitely look like the team to beat. And then right behind them, of course, the reigning champions, the Denver Nuggets. They're at, somewhere around plus 300. You've got the Celtics plus 160, Nuggets plus 300. And then, kind of to my surprise, you've got the Mavericks. The Mavericks with the third best odds, as low as plus 1,100, plus 1,500 on FanDuel. You can see across the board, maybe plus 2,500 on some sites. Then the Clippers. The Clippers are next. I don't personally think I'd put too much stock into the Clippers, only because, well, they're the Clippers, and because of health. They've got team, they've got really good players. They can play defense. They can score efficiently. I don't know how deep they can go, but they are fourth. The Bucks are fifth. Now here's the problem with that. The Bucks are fifth. Giannis is expected to miss time. They just announced yesterday, as of recording this video, so on Tuesday, they announced Giannis is expected to miss at least 1 or 2 games, maybe the whole series. They don't really know yet. He's still dealing with that calf injury. That's a problem. If Giannis doesn't play, I think the Pacers win that series in probably 5 games, maybe 4. So that's a really, really big problem. I am not feeling too good about Giannis and the Bucks, who I obviously will be rooting for. I'm a big Giannis fan. And then the Thunder, who have the best regular season record in the West. They're the number 1 seed. They're all the way down in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th place. And then the 76ers, who are in a playoff game, they've got to play in. They've got to play in to make the playoffs. They're in 7th place. The Suns, who to me are not an intimidating team. Of all the teams in the West, I'm not too concerned about the Suns. When I say concerned, maybe if my team were playing them, I wouldn't be too concerned. Who knows? Maybe they'll prove me wrong. But it seems like they just haven't been able to play well in the 4th quarter. They haven't been able to turn it on when it matters. Inconsistency problems. Who's their go-to? Is it Booker? Is it Durant? It's definitely not Beal. Who knows? Is it Grayson Allen? And then the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves had the first place in the West for much of the season. They're the Lakers, who actually just won their playoff game against the Pelicans. The Pelicans came roaring back from down like 18, and Zion was on a mission. He had 40 points, and then he got hurt with 3 minutes left. Who knows what's going to happen with Zion, or if he'll be able to play in their final play-in game against the Kings to try to get that 8 seed. Knicks, Cavaliers, Heat, all the way down on this list. The Warriors have been eliminated as of recording this video. And then the Pacers. To me, the Pacers at these odds are kind of sneaky value. Like, they can play. Do I expect them to win the finals? No, but I would definitely be looking at them maybe in those matchups against the Bucks, at least, where they are still the underdogs. So I'd be looking at those odds. So let's jump over and let's start out with a couple of price movements. I want to look at price movements by player. And what I've done here is I've put in key prices, price changes over the last 30 days for notable players from each of these teams. And I'm kind of doing it based on the matchups. Eastern Conference play-ins still aren't finalized as of recording this, so I'm kind of doing it in bunches here. So I've got Dante DiVincenzo. Man, Dante DiVincenzo has been balling lately, and I said for a long time, for the first few years that he was drafted, that I was kind of high on him long term. I actually have a decent little PC of Dante cards. I should probably look at selling some of them right now because he's been going up. As you can see, up 13% over the last 30 days. He's been averaging like 20, 21 points a game since February. He had a 40-point game. He's shooting with incredible efficiency. For a long time, I compared him to what I thought could be maybe a better defensive version of Klay Thompson and not quite the shooter of Klay Thompson, but sort of shift those two things. Klay was, at a point, a decent on and off the ball defender, and actually obviously one of the greatest shooters of all time. Dante is, in my opinion, one of the best off the ball defenders in the NBA. He understands spacing, and I really like him. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more at the end of this video. Jalen Brunson, obviously, he's been extremely hot. There's people saying, he should be top 5 MVP consideration over Giannis. I'm not sure I'd go that far. That's a little bit of crazy talk, JJ Redick. But in general, Jalen's had a fantastic season, and he's another guy who I thought could be really good, though not as good as he's been. Kristaps Porzingis up 6%, Jimmy Butler up 5%, Tatum up 3%, and then we've got Maxey, Barrett, Randall. I don't know why I put Barrett on here. That was a mistake. I'm still forgetting that he got traded over to a different team, to the Toronto Raptors. So you can make fun of me in the comments for that. That was me just thinking quickly. Pull Barrett off of here. We've got Julius Randle. You could throw OG Anunoby into the mix, I guess. And then Jaylen Brown, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Drew Holiday, Joel Embiid, Derek White, Jaime Jaquez Jr., who I threw on here because he's kind of been, not playing a ton and not playing super well for the Heat. He started out the season, really strong. Then they added Terry Rozier. So he hasn't played a lot, but he's kind of a rookie that people like, and his prices have dipped down pretty low, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on him. Okay, let's jump over to the next series. And here I'm looking at the Bucks versus the Pacers. So those were the kind of 1, 2, 7, 8 type deal. Here we've got the Bucks and the Pacers. Middleton up 3.4%, nothing really to write home about. Siakam basically flat. Miles Turner. Giannis down 5%. Tyrese Halliburton down 5% over the last 30 days. And Damian Lillard down 9%, who cannot seem to string together 2 consistent games where he actually shoots the ball well. Before the season, you may remember I talked about Lillard. I thought the Lillard to the Bucks experiment could work out in the long run. I expected bumps throughout the season. I did not expect them to have the 1 seed in the East, which they obviously did not obtain. But I thought when playoff time came, Lillard could be the difference maker to help them compete offensively with some of these other defensive teams like the Heat, like the Celtics, and others. Well, he hasn't been playing well, and if Giannis doesn't play, he's really going to have to turn it on and become playoff Dame, or the Bucks are going to be in deep trouble. All right, shifting gears here, we've got the Cavs versus the Magic, and this one is pretty much even. I think dead odds on this series, more or less. Either of these teams could win. We've got Jared Allen up 5%, Mobley 3, Franz Wagner, Donovan Mitchell, Banchero, Cole Anthony, all kind of in the plus or minus 3% range, and then Garland down 6.5%, Jalen Suggs down 8%. So these are two teams that, there's a lot of balance. They spread the ball out a lot. They obviously have their key guys in Banchero and Donovan Mitchell, and then they've got, some key secondary players, but it's all about depth for both of these teams, and that's going to be a really interesting series to watch. I don't particularly think that either of these teams has the potential to make a deep run, so I'm not sure I'd go after too many of their cards with any intensity. I'd probably be selling them right now if it were me, but this should be a really fun series to watch nonetheless, and they could win a second round matchup potentially. All right, we've got the Kings, who still need to win one more game. The Kings need to beat the Pelicans. Depending on what happens with Zion Williamson, whether or not he can play for that game, I would definitely favor the Kings, and they looked very good, but they're going to have to go on the road to play in New Orleans for the next game. We've got Domantas Sabonis, who's up 8%. He is really an incredible player, honestly. He does a little bit of everything. He's the type of player that you'd love to have on your team, and this is kind of one of those weird scenarios where that trade between the Pacers and the Kings pretty much worked out really well for both of those teams, in my opinion. Josh Giddey up 6.4%. He's been playing pretty well. He kind of just does a little bit of everything for that Thunder team, though he's definitely not the focal point for their players. Chet, Zion Williamson, both flat. CJ McCollum, who played terribly, couldn't seem to get a bucket to fall in that game versus the Lakers. De'Aaron Fox down 1%. Jalen Williams, who's kind of a budding superstar in his own right, down 1.3%. Shea down 2.5%. And Keegan Murray, who basically carried the Kings. I think he was 8 for 13 from 3, shot really well, played really well, even had some nice post moves and Euro steps. Overall, he looked really, really talented in that game against the Warriors last night. He's down 4% over the last 30 days. He's an interesting one to keep an eye on, I guess, although inconsistency has sort of been the name of the game for him throughout the season from game to game. Okay, now we're moving into the Nuggets. They are still obviously the favorites in the West, and they will be playing the Lakers. Very interesting matchup indeed, because you've got the 2-seed Nuggets against the 7-seed Lakers, who had to win that play-in game. And this was the Western Conference Finals last year when the Lakers made that deep run. So I would still expect much of the same result. If I had to pick, I'm probably taking the Nuggets in 6 in this series. I don't see it going to 7. I'd probably lean more toward 5. Unless the Lakers can really do something to turn it on. I just don't see them being able to slow down Jokic whatsoever. I know Anthony Davis is hailed as a great defender. He is a great defender. He's a great player when he's healthy, but Jokic is on another level in my opinion. So we've got Aaron Gordon up 6%, and then Jokic, Jamal Murray, both kind of flat. Michael Porter Jr., who can hit some big shots, down 2.5%. LBJ down 3%. Rui down 5%. Anthony Davis down 7%. D'Angelo Russell, who shot really well in that play-in game, down 8.3%. He's averaging 20 points a game, give or take. And my guy Austin Reeves, who I thought might step up into a bigger role this year, I sort of expected to see him up, Russell down. That didn't really happen. So Reeves down 9%. Be interesting to see if he plays well in the playoffs, because he did last year as part of them making that run. LeBron was actually talking about that on the JJ Redick podcast that he's been doing with him now, about how he really trusted Reeves last year after Reeves showed that he could step up in the biggest moments in the playoffs. Okay, and then we're moving to the Timberwolves here, and we've got the Timberwolves against the Suns. Timberwolves, like I said, were the 1 seed for much of the season. They're now in the 3. The Suns made it into the 6th seed. And this is also a really interesting series, because you've kind of got the young, up-and-coming guys, so to speak, against, I would say, some of the older guys who have been there before. The Suns have obviously made it to the finals. Durant's won a finals. So KD, Devin Booker, both down over the last 30 days. Bradley Beal, interestingly, up 6%. Gobert up 9% as he's expected to kind of win the Defensive Player of the Year award running away, although maybe people should be giving consideration to Victor Wembanyama. Then Anthony Edwards up 5%, who, in my opinion, he's like the epitome of the team player. He doesn't fill up the stat sheet like some of these guys do. But anybody who knows basketball, anybody who knows the quote-unquote eye test, they all just look at Anthony Edwards and they say, in some ways, he seems like a man among boys when he gets out there on the court and plays. He's got the tenacity. I'm a big fan of his game and watching him play. Towns down 3%. So that's kind of an interesting picture. I don't quite know what to expect from this series. My gut wants to say that Minnesota should really win this series, probably in 5 or 6 games, but it's Durant and it's Booker, and both of those guys come to life in the biggest moments, so I'm really excited to see who comes out ahead in that one. Okay, now let's look at, we've got the Clippers and we've got the Mavericks. So this is another really interesting series. I like the Mavericks in this series, although the Clippers, you saw the odds, right? That was really interesting to see the Clippers and the Mavericks both near the top in Vegas odds after Denver. They're basically saying that they think this 4-5 matchup is one that either of these teams could make a deep run. I do think that's the case. The Clippers, like I said, they're very efficient. They're very experienced. Kawhi Leonard is still one of the best players in the universe when he's healthy. Paul George has that potential. He tends to be a lot more inconsistent than Kawhi Leonard, but he is obviously capable on both ends of the ball. You've got just superstar power in this. It's kind of crazy to look at this. Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Luka, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kawhi Leonard. If you had told me a few years ago that that would be like 2 teams put together, that would have been kind of hard to believe. I have no idea what to expect from this one. I probably wouldn't be buying any of these players' cards right now. I also probably wouldn't be selling any of them right now. just because I'm curious and want to know what's going to happen. All right, so I'm quickly going to go through the notable players cards from each of these teams. These are the key players, the focal points, and we'll look at, kind of number of sales as well as current sales price. So I've got here Embiid and Tatum. You can see I'm looking at the number of sales, and Tatum's PSA 10 having sold 177 times over the last 90 days. You've got their silvers, you've got their base and silver. That's kind of the model that I'm going to use to go through this data for the most part where it exists, because those cards are common, they sell often. They're very iconic. They're kind of the flagship cards. That's why I use them. If we shift to current price, you've got Embiid at 1.25, 1.25K. That card, much lower pop count, pop 86 on his PSA 10 Prism Silver compared to pop 851 on Tatum, so about a tenth of the number of sales. So overall, you can see Tatum, much higher pop counts on his cards, and on his Prism base, for example, which is much higher pop count as well, he's still selling for more than MVP Embiid. So I think that's the Celtics factor. I think that's the ability to go deep into the playoffs. And people have just liked Tatum a lot more than Embiid in spite of how good Embiid is. We shift over, we've got playoff Jimmy Butler, and then we've got Jalen Brunson here as well. So playoff Jimmy, actually let me shift my time frame to 180 days. Why? Because those 2012 Prism Silver is extremely low pop count, barely ever sell, which is why they go for premium coin. 1.4K on that pop 23 Jimmy. Brunson still outselling Jimmy on his rookie cards because it's newer, 2018 versus 2012. But overall, you can see Brunson's Prism Silver doing pretty well at $318. Both of these guys, I'm really excited to see how they can play, as well as obviously many of these others. Okay, Giannis, 118 sales on his 2013, so almost bucking the trend when I compare him to Dame and Tyrese Halliburton. Still, by far and away, you've got Giannis over the last 90 days selling the most, 118 sales on his PSA 10. That card is a pop 3,000, so not a low pop on the 2013 Prism base cards. In fact, that one is still higher pop than Lillard's, obviously, from 2012, but also Halliburton's, which is just over 1,000 on his 2020 PSA 10. I think there were centering issues in that 2020 year. So if we go to current price, I'm going to hide this sale. You see 11,000 for the Pop 81 Prism Silver Giannis, so I'll hide that sale. Then you can see Lillard at 1.4K. I'm going to hide that one. And then we kind of equalize a little bit. And if I'm looking at, these three guys, the Halliburton one is an interesting one. He had some struggles over the last few months, had some inconsistency issues. But in my opinion, if the Pacers do win that series, he's going to be a big part of that. You remember there was that little bit of a beef about where did the game ball go when Giannis, had that monster game against the Pacers earlier in the season. So I expect a chippy series. I'd love to see Giannis be able to get out there at least by Game 3 and hopefully help compete. Okay, shifting gears, we've got Paolo Banchero and Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, similar sales volume here. We've got actually his Prism base with 95 sales compared to 121 on Banchero. If we switch over to the current price, Banchero's Prism Silver, interestingly, $304. That card is pop 580, which is close to the pop 608 on Donovan Mitchell. Number one pick, up-and-comer. You can see, man, just how quickly some players seem to fall. $169 on the Donovan Mitchell. Let's keep going rapid fire, and I'll give you the data. I've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I am a huge fan of, Zion Williamson, De'Aaron Fox, and look at Zion. Man, that 2019 Prism base, 498 sales. That card, what's the pop? Pop 23,000 on that PSA 10, and it's still selling for $50 on average over the last 90 days. That one, people still like Zion. And that one did spike up to kind of the $65, $70 range for a little bit about a month ago. Shai, 188 sales. You've even got Zion's Prism Silver almost tracking with the same number of sales as Shai's base card, or maybe about, a little bit under half. Let's look at current prices. Shai leading the charge, $750 on his Prism Silver, and that is pop 615. When you compare that to some of these other players, that still seems actually kind of criminally low to me. Shai's a heck of a player. He's, in my opinion, a top 4 player in the NBA right now. Hard to argue with that. So, I don't know. I would say that card in general, just price-wise, seems really intriguing to me. You've got Zion at $389. And then De'Aaron Fox, who very similarly to Donovan Mitchell is a heck of a player, a fantastic guard. But there are so many good guards in the NBA now. that if you're not in that top 3, top 4 conversation, your prices are going to start coming down over time. That's from 2017. Really, really good player, fun to watch, but his card prices haven't held up too strong. Okay, let's jump over to the Nuggets and the Lakers. Obviously, it's going to be Jokic and it's going to be LeBron. Some big, big money here to get into some of these cards. LeBron's base Chrome PSA 10, $435. To get his base Topps paper card PSA 10, you're going to pay $1,500. PSA 9 Chrome, $900, and PSA 9 Topps, $410. Then you've got Jokic Prism Silver. This is Pop 157 for $3,000. It's really interesting if you look at that card and you compare it to Giannis's Prism Silver, which was $11K. You be the judge of that price gap between the two of them. There are more of the Jokic's, so that's definitely a factor. But we can see how those prices stack up. And LeBron's Topps Chrome PSA 10, which is Pop 2300, still outselling that Jokic Prism Silver by about $1,300. Couple more matchups to look up, and then I'm going to give you my value picks, and we'll close it out. So I've got Booker, I've got Durant, and I've got Anthony Edwards lined up here. Ant-Man with his 2020 Prism base PSA 10, 101 sales. Prism Silver next for Anthony Edwards, 47 sales. That one's actually still Pop 1600. Obviously, the Durant refractor, Chrome refractor, is numbered to $14.99. The PSA 10 is just $192. That one's at $3,000 if we shift over to price. I'll take that off the chart. And then Durant's Topps Chrome PSA 10, one of the cards that I had lost the most money on at one point. I bought in way too high into that card a few years ago and took a big loss. Actually, it was a PSA 9 that I think I bought for like $900 and took a big loss, bought it at the high point. One of the biggest speculating mistakes I've made. That was back in 2021. But it's going to be really interesting. I think that no matter who wins this series, or I should say whoever wins this series, one of these three guys' prices, I think, will spike up going into the next series. So if the Wolves win, I expect to see Anthony Edwards' prices go up. If the Suns win, I would expect to see Booker or Durant go up, unless they just sort of play evenly and nobody stands out as having taken the reins during the series. Okay, last series to talk about, and we did discuss this, is the Clippers and the Mavericks. So what I did in this case, since there's so much star power, is I just stacked up kind of a bunch of their flagship base PSA 10 rookie cards. You can see you've got Harden, that 2009 Topps set, still very low print run in spite of being a Topps paper set. You had the Chrome subset within that same product. PSA 10, Pop 212, $350. Westbrook, half of the population, roughly, from 2008 Topps Chrome, and that's $275. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that in the comments. And then Luka, $271 on his Pop nearly 20,000 Prism base cards. So Luka Pop 20,000 with a million different rookie cards. Russell Westbrook, MVP winner, triple-double master, kind of the Luka before the Luka, but with way more athleticism and maybe less moxie. Similar price. Just really interesting to look at those types of things. Not surprising, in my opinion, based on all the things we've seen from Luka. Paul George, who has next to no rookie cards, with his Donruss, yes, the very sexy Donruss PSA 10, Pop 70. Really tough to gem these with the black borders, black, kind of frameless border on the card. Full bleed, $251. Kyrie, $150. Kawhi Leonard, $106. And then last, let's just jump in, and I'm going to look at these picks quickly. So these are some guys who I think just have a really high floor, meaning I don't think these cards could go down a lot. I tried to target cards $50 and under because I think they're low risk. Typically, if you're having a PSA 10 type card or even a PSA 9 in some cases, PSA 10s in this price range, notable players who are still active, unlikely that they're going to come crashing down, and maybe likely that they would go up a decent amount if these players have an impact. So that's what I was looking at. So I've got Kristaps Porzingis. He's very efficient. He's a big part of that Boston team offensively and defensively. And if he has a few big games, especially if you have a series that goes to Game 6, Game 7, and he's a factor, that card could go up. What we can do is we can pop this open. I'm going to actually zoom out a little bit, and we can click this little chart icon here, and we'll look at what this card's been doing over the last 90 days. And you've actually got this card up 47% over the last 90 days. So Porzingis, he's already been seeing some traction. People like the Celtics. Then you've got Jalen Williams, who's been fantastic. He's been an awesome player. and he's really emerged this season. He was one of the guys before the season that I thought could actually emerge. Same thing here. If we look at him, he's up 58% over the last 90 days on his Prism base card, so people have been high on him. My guy Dante DiVincenzo, this is his Prism Silver, just $37 for his Prism Silver card in a PSA 10. That one's up 42% over the last 90 days. And we've got Bobby Portis. This is a pop 35. There's not a lot of these cards selling. This is his Prism Silver rookie card, so not a lot of them selling, up 84%. And I will tell you that when Bobby Portis plays, when Giannis is out, he averages, I think, like 21 points per game. So Big Shot Bobby steps up when it's time. And then you've got Rui Hachimura here. He was a factor last year. People, kind of got excited about him. He's up 93% over the last 90 days on his Prism Silver. And then finally, Jamal Murray, who we know can have some massive playoff games. Looks like he's been kind of coming down recently, so he's actually down 30%. He might be the best one on this list to look at. You know he can play really well in the playoffs, and if the Nuggets do make a deep run, he's sure to be a part of it. So you tell me, who do you like this year? Who do you think will win it all? And whose cards stand to gain the most with a deep run? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, while you're down there, make sure to like this video. Make sure to subscribe, share it with a friend. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, happy investing, keep on collecting, and make sure to have fun.